Hello there, I'm Dennis. Welcome to my channel, Life, Home, and My Linux Journeys. And if you've watched my journey, the last video I installed MxLinux. And I've got MxLinux set up on this Dell Optiplex, and it's basically complete. It's got everything on it that I want or need in the location that it's going to serve. And we're going to go over a few things about it that I didn't touch in the other video, but we're going to touch on it here. Let me go over and let's bring up a terminal. Let's see what screen fetch says. MxLinux, Debian 12 bookworm, uptime hour and 51 minutes, blah blah blah, Xfce desktop. Okay, now Xfce is installed by default, so let's run that. And let's look for audio and graphics. Under graphics, we're using X11 radeon driver. Audio, we're using PipeWire. Alright, clear that, get rid of it. Let's bring up their websites here. Now, when you open up Firefox for the first time, you're going to have these categories up here, or tabs. And I would leave them there unless, you know, you're beyond this stuff. But here's where you're going to get a lot of information. MxLinux, including your download. They got the blog, MX forum, and antics forums, which those are closely related to MxLinux. We'll get to this in a second here, but here is the init systems. SystemLinux. MxLinux does not use systemd by default, and I'm going to include this link in the description below so you can look at the init system. Now that's probably going to be above a new user's desire to know that kind of stuff yet, but eventually, if you stay in Linux, you're going to hear systemd or SysVinit, RC, OpenRC. You're going to see hear and use maybe and see some different init systems. So let me minimize this, and let's go to my notes here because I want to show this or tell you about this. Now, like I just said, we don't use systemd by default. This is MxLinux version 23. It's now 23.3. Let me change that. Save it. And it's supported until June of 2028. Awesome. Here's the X11 server for graphics and the PipeWire for audio. MxLinux utilizes a SvsVinit as its default init system. End users can easily select their desired init system. Once you learn what kind of, or know what kind of init system you want, you can select systemd or SysVinit. MxLinux uses a systemd-shim, and what that does, I'm not running systemd right now. This machine is SysVinit, and I'll show you that here. Here would be a typical command in systemd, and it'll say, now this was the status of sshd, or the secure shell. Says system has not been booted with systemd as the init system. Well, you have that option anytime. So the easiest way for me to show you this is in a virtual box. I've got it set up right here. Go ahead and start it. Alright, so if you do your arrow key right here, you'll basically pause this. If you go to advanced options, in this case the second option there, you'll see that the first one is MxLinux libretto, and underneath it, the second option, in parentheses at the end there, says systemd. So if you want a systemd system and you want that to boot up every time, then that's your option. You hit this, you won't have to do it again. You'll get the regular grub screen like we're fixing to get. Let's see if I can just go back, like right here. Alright, now I want to show you something fancy that MxLinux does that I really appreciate. That splash screen. You can tell MxLinux has had a lot of work done to it over the years. Log in. And it's not going to remember. Yeah, it's going to get it good enough, I guess. Let's see what stretch out there. I don't think it's fully loaded yet. Try to get that arrow right there, stretch that out. There we go. Now, it did that process splash screen during the startup. Now, it actually reverses it, usually without screen tearing. Let me go ahead and shut this off. Here we go. So if you want to run systemd, right there is your exactly way to do it. You can even experiment and try running systemd, or I'm sorry, try using the default init system, which is sysVinit, and then later on, if you decide you want to try systemd, change it right there. Now I haven't actually done that, so I couldn't tell you if all your programs will work after you change your init system. So beware of that. Do it in a VirtualBox first. Alright, I bring up my notes, make sure I got all that covered. Yep. So let me demonstrate that. Not demonstrate it, but let me show you a result of that systemd-shim that they use. You'll see right here I have GNOME disk utility, as well as GNOME system monitor, which are all have dependency on systemd. And because of that shim, I'm able to install these two programs, which I use all the time. And there's others that I've had to, or I've installed that were actually based or needed a systemd init system. So that is really nice. So let me bring up, I got a screenshot here. I think that's it. This is a cold boot, and it was running at 684 megs on a cold boot. That's nice. That's getting down there with the big boys, so to speak. Go ahead and close out of my web browser there and my notes. So let me just look at my menu real quick. And, you know, you can see I've got the stuff that I would normally use anyway. Most of this stuff I'll never use on this particular machine, but if I do want it, it's there, and it'll update with everything else. I want to demonstrate MX Tools right here. This is one of the best options you'll ever have in a Linux distribution. Starting at the top, you can create a live USB. I'm going to close it. Take a system snapshot, chroot rescue scan, disk manager, etc. Boot options, boot repair, cleanup, service manager. You can turn on and off services that are running. Let's see. Bluetooth. You see that's running here. You could just stop it, and that would stop it. But next time you restart it, it'll start the service again. You can disable it at boot, and it'll go away. All right, user manager. What a cool category. Here you can add a user, modify a user, delete a user account, or rename the user account. You got so many options here. Group memberships, you can log in automatically or require a password to log in, which I do. It's not ticked there, but I do. Copy sync, this is for backing up stuff. You can add different groups and group membership. Now I select my name here. When I installed VirtualBox, the installer put me in the VBox SF shared folder and VBox users group. I didn't have to do that. That was really nice for them to do that for you. However, when I installed Virt Manager, it did not. I had to put myself in. Let's see, where is it at? libvirt and libvirt QEMU. So I had to add myself to those groups, but that was okay. Alright, system sounds, date and time, about. Here's a cool function I recommend you look at often. It's a tour. It tells you about your panel, whisker menu, taskbar, the conky, MX Tools, MX Tweak, etc. Until you know this stuff, keep this handy and use it all the time. If you have questions, if you don't, skip it. MX tweak, this would be, for instance, where you position your panel or taskbar and other things. You can format a USB. It's got a built-in Deb installer for Deb packages. A package installer, a synaptic is installed, a repo manager, a quick system info. You could click on that and that would tell you really most everything about your machine. So let me close out of that. So that's really going to do it. I just wanted to show how good MxLinux can actually be. and it's right for me. It works great. I don't think I've ever had a single problem, really. So I will say one thing about MxLinux. If you're brand new to Linux and you're not so computer savvy, but you want to check it out anyway to see what it's all about, you probably don't need to start with MxLinux. MxLinux would be something you would start if you're already more than just a brand new user. I'm not sure how that category fits in there, but if you've never used Linux before, MxLinux would require you to do a lot of thinking and investigation and checking it out. Whereas Linux Mint, on the other hand, if you install it, it's ready to go. You don't have to do anything at that point. Which here, you don't have to do anything. Its system works great. MxLinux would be my top choice for a common, for a slightly seasoned user. There you go. That's a good way to describe MxLinux. Not necessarily for the first Linux intro, but for a lightly seasoned user of Linux. So that's going to do it for this video. I appreciate you guys watching. I'll catch you on the other one. Peace out and bye-bye. Okay, hello there. I'm Dennis. Welcome to my channel, YouTube.